Hi there, it's Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com here with our countdown of the M15 top rogue cards. We're up to number 2. One more to go after this one, and this one is a goodie. This is actually my favorite flavor-wise. I don't know, it was tough between 1 and 2. Necromancer Stockpile, a 2-mana enchantment that you can pay 2, discard a creature card, draw a card. If the discarded card was a zombie card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token into the battlefield tapped. I just got my card draw engine for Immortal Servitude. I'm so happy. I don't know if this is going to be powerful enough. It does take 2 mana to discard a card, but we're going to try to be utilizing this in a zombie deck. Only problem is we don't want as much self-mill as normal, so I definitely have to toy around with the numbers on this deck to see exactly how it works. We're still going to use Timerit the Murder King as the win condition, but and Perforos, but again, I don't know how many Grizzly Salvage and Commune with the Gods and the Satyr Wayfinders we actually want in the deck. Good news is Commune with the God is sticking around with Necromancer Stockpile, and the majority of these cards that I'll be showing you will be sticking around, especially Timerit and Perforos, so the deck is still alive with Return to the Ranks, which is going to be spoiled here soon in my number 1 video. Anyway, so let's just go over to the deck here. We have Timerit the Murder King, who is a zombie who wants to be in the graveyard, who can sacrifice another creature to return him from the graveyard to your hand, which then you can then pitch him again to draw another card. So the whole thing is we're going to try to draw through our deck as fast as possible, find the Immortal Servitude, cast the Immortal Servitude, and win the game with the combo of Perforos and Timerit, either being able to sacrifice everything that comes back on the battlefield, or to do 2 damage, or of course just Perforos doing the damage. So a couple of other cards you could think about using in here is Obelisk of Erd. We'll have a lot of creatures, we'll be able to convoke them, and they'll get all +2/+2, so that can just overwhelm the opponent that way. You can also think about putting Generator Servant in here. Generator Servant can be, you can sacrifice it to add mana to your mana pool for just a quicker go through your deck, a quicker Immortal Servitude. This card actually works really well with Return to the Ranks, as it will actually generate 2 mana, and you can actually target one of Generator Servant and then another card and actually get a lot of value out of it. So we can even think about putting in a number of Return to the Ranks in this card again. Here we'll pull up Return to the Ranks here so you can see it. I'm going to talk way more about this card. This is actually the card I picked for GatheringMagic.com, so when they release my favorite card out of M15, you can see the whole Return to the Ranks tech on that. So anyway, here's Return to the Ranks, and it's kind of like Immortal Servitude. You can convoke and return X-target creature cards from converted mana cost 2 or less from your battlefield to the graveyard. So this deck, of course, I think post-rotation will work without Immortal Servitude, as you're just going to try to use Timerit and the Necromancer Stockpile to generate a lot of advantage through damage and returning Timerit back. So you're going to be discarding Timerit, then returning him and whatnot. So very, very cool interaction. We might get a few other zombies. Again, the good news is we keep most of the zombies. These are all of the zombies in Standard right now that you can use that have 2 mana for Immortal Servitude. Now Lawless Troll is pretty powerful. It's probably the most powerful zombie, so we probably want to include the Lawless Troll. But there's Wide Precinct 6 that most likely won't make the cut, but it is an option. We have Returned Phalanx, who absolutely, or Returned Reveler, excuse me, who absolutely will make the cut. Returned Phalanx might in a more defensive type strategy. If you put out a 3/3 turn 3, it blocks most of them, but I don't know if it will quite make the cut or not. So we also have Returned Reveler, who is going to be a pivotal piece in this for putting more stuff into our graveyard that then we can Immortal Servitude. So we're going to be able to sacrifice him with Timerit. He's also a 1/3, which is perfect what you want. You want this guy to come out, be able to block a few things, and if he dies, each player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into your graveyard. We also have Hornet's Nest that can go quite good in this deck as well, but if we were going to go Hornet's Nest, I'd probably go into more of a green-red Immortal Servitude list and not go this zombie route. So Spiteful Return is a nice aggressive one. Blood Scrivener is nice. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in hand, you draw 2 cards. Now you can actually, if you are drawing the card with the Necromancer Stockpile, it actually does work. So you can discard all your cards through other methods, through like Lawless Troll, and then if you have 0 cards in your hand, you can discard your last creature card, that's in your hand, and then you can actually draw 2 cards with the Blood Scrivener. So not a little bad interaction there. I think that it will make the cut just for that. But we also get this juicy black cat from M15, which is awesome because, again, it comes out and actually gets value after it goes to the graveyard. And then there's good old Gnawing Zombie. I guess it's kind of like another Timuret, so it probably will make the cut as well. So again, this is going to be a Mortal Servitude Necromancer Stockpile deck. I don't even know if we need the Grizzly Salvages. I think Commune with the Gods are kind of nice. We might not even need Satyr Wayfinder, as we're going to be able to generate quite a bit of... I don't know, I kind of want green just for Lot Troll. So like these Satyr Hedonist and Burning Emissary are really cool interactions with the... Timuret the Murder King, because when they come back in from Immortal Servitude, this generates mana, perfect mana to actually sack itself, so to the Timuret for 2 extra damage, and the Satyr Hedonist can then generate some mana to sacrifice another creature. And there's been a lot of times where I've been able to string Immortal Servitudes, so you know, you sacrifice Satyr Hedonist to add the 3, so on turn 4 you have four black, or I guess you'd have to have... Yeah, you'd have to have a lot more black than what I'm thinking of here. You'd have to have 6 black mana open for this to happen, but you can actually sacrifice the Satyr Hedonist for the 2 mana, and then Immortal Servitude, get back the Hedonist, and I've actually Immortal Servitude it again in the same turn, and I just got so much advantage with Timuret. So, Timuret here, again with these 2, nice little combo. Satyr Wayfinder just seems like a good kind of dredge card for the deck. Again, I don't know if it's needed. So between like Gnawing Zombie being able to sacrifice creatures and getting some sort of stall in life, again, this deck is probably going to want to be more grindy than anything. So it depends on what we'll actually use. Could actually go just a very, very subtle splash in red for the Purphoros. You do want Purphoros and Timuret. They're the win cons. They're the really, really, really consistent win conditions. So you mill Timuret, you get this in the graveyard, and then Purphoros you eventually draw into. And then I guess Commune definitely would stay in here. So we probably, I don't know if we need Satyr Wayfinder. We definitely wouldn't want Grizzly Salvage at this point, even though it does get you the land. But what you want to hit with Commune is you actually want to hit the generate, or the... Where'd it go? Necromancer Stockpile or the Purphoros. Those are the 2 kind of win conditions that you want to hit. Now, there's also some other juicy enchantments you could definitely put in this. Whip of Erebos, I don't think hits it, but you can go through. There's like Brain Maggot and a few other 2 enchantment drops that you can actually... I guess with Commune you could get Brain Maggot anyway, but I mean, I'm sure there's Font of the Returned. I'll show you that right here. This could actually give you... I like this card a lot because look, you get 3 cards back from your graveyard. So Commune of the Gods, it works pretty cool because you can actually reveal 5 cards, grab the font, possibly put 3 cards in, and then eventually get them back. So it just screams value, but again, it might be a little bit too hard in the standard environment to do this. But you never know, this deck could actually take off. This is starting to feel a lot more like the Bug Immortal Servitude from back in the day, rather than my other option, my most consistent, the best deck that I have right now with Immortal Servitude in the current standard is a bunch of haste creatures like Spike Jester and Ash Zealot and the Rakdos Shred Freak. So all those cards that come back into the battlefield have haste, and then Purphoros and Timuret are just icing on the cake, but it's really the hasters you're going to get in there for the initial damage, and eventually Immortal Servitude them back together. This one is more of a stall deck. You're going to want to put these guys out like Black Cat, give them terrible options to attack into, and eventually set up like a string of Immortal Servitudes or just advantage through the Necromancer Stockpile, being able to get so much card advantage and whatnot. So again, Necromancer Stockpile could just go in a plain zombie deck. It works very well with Gravedigger that we're getting back. We still do have some, I believe, some other cards that can, like Freaka's Mender, that can get stuff back from the graveyard as well. It, again, just screams value with creatures. It screams even more value with zombie creatures because, of course, the key thing to this is you're discarding a creature card and putting a 2/2 zombie creature token on the battlefield. Unfortunately, it does come on the battlefield tapped, but you can always do that at the end of your opponent's turn, so it can untap. And so you're getting a 2/2 zombie. You're essentially getting your bear for 2 mana that can block or do whatever, and then you're also getting a card out of it. and eventually you'll get all those cards back with Mortal Servitude. So anything that makes Immortal Servitude work, I'm very, very happy to brew around. Immortal Servitude, I wouldn't say is my favorite card in Standard right now. My favorite card is still by far Hidden Strings. I didn't see any duh cards with Hidden Strings in the format that, again, it's with maybe just some really, really weird interactions with cards that, yeah, I didn't really see any combat damage type cards or cards that got any sort of huge value out of casting more instances or sorceries or tapping and untapping. I mean, Hidden Strings is really at its fine point right now with Inspired and all of the other cards that interact with untapping or tapping or casting spells. So anyway, we could even go into another color for blue. There is one decent card that I know out of blue that would go perfect in this deck, and it's the good old, let's find it here. Can't remember what it's called, so bear with me 1 second. Disciple of Deceit. Disciple of Deceit actually would work out. Again, this feels kind of like a Necromancer, so when it becomes untapped, you can discard a non-land card, so you can actually go get the Necromancer stockpile. But if you're going to kind of go this route, blue might be a little bit too hard. I don't think you get enough advantage from blue. Yeah, just... yeah, 2-drop blue does not really add enough, I think, to justify splashing into it. But, I mean, this is a fun little deck. I'm sure it will be a little hard to tune it, but once I get it tuned, I'm sure that it will be viable. I'll win some games with it for sure. And I'm definitely, again, my goal in Magic isn't to necessarily win a Pro Tour. That'll be fun if I ever do win a Pro Tour. But my goal in Magic is to make the most creative yet competitive decks. And cards like Necromancer Stockpile just get me really excited. And I mean, that's the whole point of this channel. I mean, there might be better places to turn your attention to if you're looking for netdeck.com and to maximize your gameplay. I'm probably not the right person to watch, even though that I still consider myself highly competitive, making a Pro Tour and top 8ing in multiple tournaments that I think were good accomplishments. So you can learn a lot, and I think that there actually is a strength to deck building. Deck building does give you different angles. Like, I'm not very surprised anymore if I see a deck. I can figure out what the deck is trying to do right off the bat. So if I do ever go up against another rogue player, I know what they're trying to do. So I think I kind of have that advantage over your typical Spike or net deck players. What made my Jund Dredge deck so powerful, why I was able to top 8 in Vegas and then did barely above 50% in the Grand Prix Phoenix, was in Vegas. It was a brand new deck that no one had seen, and they did not know how to play around it. So first turn they were thought seizing and grabbing the weirdest things, where then I was able to just completely recover and whatnot. So I think there is that advantage, that angle with rogue decking, that I think that if more players were actually rogue or Ajani players, you would see just as high of statistics. I mean, most of these net decks have a 50% win percentage anyway. I think if more people actually played, like, especially when Bug Immortal Servitude existed, I think if more people actually would have played Bug Immortal Servitude, that it would have had a lot higher presence. You would have seen it show up on MTG Goldfish. You would see people actually top 8ing it in the tournaments. And it just really saddens me to see that people are so stuck on net decks that they're too afraid to really venture out, or just don't have the talent to do so, to venture out into other, I guess, crazy, wacky decks. You got to remember, like, the Aristocrats deck that actually did win a Pro Tour started out as a homebrew, and from there on, like, after it won a Pro Tour, then everyone picked it up, and it was very successful. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Again, there won't be much of a deck tech for the Return to the Ranks, the #1 card. I'll have that card as soon as Gathering Magic posts the video. It'll be on their channel, and I'll link it for you. But I hope you enjoy this top 10 list. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about this top 10 list. There are plenty of other cards out of M15 that I could have put out. Sometimes it's really hard, like the number 8, 9, 10 cards in other sets are kind of filler cards. But this set was just so packed full of just pure awesomeness that I could have done a top 20 list of cards that I'm looking forward to brewing around. Anyway, this has been Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.